me. I must say that the introduction had me, when you have somebody talk about you and you don't ever really think about yourself that much. I am always a part of a bigger, larger collective unit. I'm a part of a very large family that's very close, very tight-knit. That's what's got us through a lot of hard times. So when I hear her speak of me in a singular, it only brought my family into the room because they've been such a big part of everything that I do. So with that being said, I knew exactly what I was going to say when I got here this morning, and I have to. I must thank you for sharing your story this morning, because something that she said resonated, and it was a part of what I planned to speak about. And when this young mother said, nature provides, it so very much does. And everything that I wanted to speak to you guys about has everything to do, going back to that theme, although I wasn't speaking necessarily about nature provides as a theme. It was more about what are we all doing? I know that all of you are here with shared values, a common goal that we all have in life. And for me, from a young girl, a part of that common goal was fulfilling a contract with Creator. That's just the one absolute that you don't let anybody or anything get in the way of. That's you and Creator, and nobody gets in the way of that contract. Not your mom, not your dad. That's just something that's pretty sacred between you and the Creator. And a lot of times, a majority of the times, and for me speaking personally, I know that the only thing that can ever hinder that contract between me and my Creator is life, getting so busy with life. And so we all have to take that step back and ask, what are we doing? How do we find that balance in our lives? Because, work is definitely important. That's how we feed our families. We have to do our jobs. We have to do our jobs. And then I start thinking about that whole concept of what I'm doing and this fulfillment of the contract with my Creator, and what I'm doing on these side trails that do. It feels like side trails that put me in this direction instead of the direction that I need to be with, fulfilling that contract with my Creator. And so I take as much opportunity as I can to spend with my children in nature, taking them fishing, hunting, showing them how they can provide for themselves as I was taught, knowing that, if, the fictional rules that kind of guide us in this life, if they all kind of went away, what would be our reality? And so as a mother, I didn't face that. How am I going to cope with that as a mother? Because, I've been wired and programmed a certain way, like most of us have, through formal education, through our life experiences. And it wasn't until I became a mother that I can honestly tell you that I learned to love myself. It wasn't until I was carrying that life that I truly loved myself. And as I grew my family and I had my daughter, so I have a 15-year-old son, a 9-year-old son, and then I had my daughter. That little girl changed everything for me. She turned my world upside down because I was raised with 4 younger brothers, and I was, an older sister, and so I had to be a leader of some younger brothers. I had to show them the way. I had to teach them a lot of different things. And for some reason, very young, I was taught that you can do and be anything that you want to be. You can do anything that a man can do. So if we walk away with anything today that we can do individually, is to stop that fallacy. I do not want to be better than any man. I do not want to be equal to any man. My only desire, and I honestly feel that what Creator put us here to do, is to be in balance with each other. Not to compete or to be equals with each other, but to be in balance with each other. And so I had to sit down with my daughter the other day when she started crying because her big brother Rainbow ran way faster than she did. And he got to the point of the final destination far before she did. And she was really upset about it. And so I had to sit down and have a conversation with my 4-year-old daughter that was tough for me to let her know about balance, and that, Ruby, boys are going to run faster than you. and boys are going to be able to lift heavier rocks than you. And all of these things that she wants to be in competition with her big brothers about. That we need to seek more balance in this life. And so when Reverend Stevens mentioned that she was in awe that there's such a voluminous audience, I shall say, on such a beautiful Sunday, it just allows me to know that and walk away with the learning that I have, because I mentioned, there's the teaching element here, and there's also what I learned from you all, is that there are more people out there seeking spiritual balance than I think that this world is given credit for. We speak so much about what's wrong with society that we don't take enough time to speak about what's right, what's working in our lives. We're so focused on the dis and not the function of what's really happening and what's going on. And so I want you to all just turn to each other right now, and spouse, neighbor, whoever's sitting, to each side of you, a smile. Just no words. Just look from your right to your left and just smile. Smile at each other. Because part of what's functioning in this world is love. I mean, that's why I'm here to this day. Yes, tragic Nez Perce history, the War of 1877. My great-great-great-great-grandmother, Pi'anhoch Powit, was the oldest daughter of Chief Lookingglass. Chief Lookingglass was killed at one of the battles. His 14-year-old daughter survived and escaped into Canada with Yellow Wolf. While she was up there, she met Zilunlas, another young Nez Perce warrior around the age of 15. And they found love. 7 years later, when Yellow Wolf returned back to Idaho, to Nez Perce territory, Zilunlas and Pi'anhoch Powit, they came. They homesteaded. She became Mary Oatman. He became John Oatman. And through that love, they had a tremendous legacy, of which I know I'm a part of. And I think that that's the other thing that we can do as we walk away is, just really learning a little bit more about where we come from. And if we don't know a part of that journey, and many of us don't, I know that for me, that was really what made me a lot more rooted in where I'm at in this in this crazy, scary little world, because for the most part, a lot of our Nez Perce people, and I'm not going to generalize and speak for, I'm going to share from my experience. It wasn't until I learned of the bloodline and the legacy of who I came from that I could see that as a people, as an indigenous people, modern history wants us to see ourselves as being in a sunset. That little tiny flicker of light is the sun going down on us in this time frame in world history. But I know better. I've been raised and I've been protégé to know that because of people gathering like yourselves, learning truth in history, sharing that truth in history with each other, with your legacy to come, of repairing that history, of realizing that, yes, we have tremendous benefits from that history, but we also have shared burdens from that history as well. And so as we move forward and we share those stories, that we all realize and we recognize, as you did, that we're doing that on some pretty sacred grounds here. And so for me, my big part of my responsibility as I move forward with the benefits and the burdens, trying to find balance between those two, is teaching my children who they are and where they come from, teaching them the story about Pi'anhoch Powit and Zilunlas, going even further back than that, even myself, because women, Nez Perce women, were written out of even the written history that we have from the early 1800s. Lewis and Clark didn't write a whole lot about the Nez Perce women. They didn't give names to them like they did in their journals to some of the chiefs that they came along. This young woman that's here around my neck, I carry her with me quite a bit, Sacagawea, Sacagawea. She's not even Nimipu. History shows that we were warring against her people, the Nimipu. But one woman in a journey full of men brought a tremendous amount of balance. Whatever that history is, the good, the bad, and the ugly, I embrace it all because it brings us all together. Like I said earlier, Creator doesn't make any mistakes. I know a lot of my history. Some of it, is tragic. Some of it is hard to learn. But the fact of the resilience that we're here, that I can share the kind of stories that I do with the young people, it is that glimmer of hope that the sun is not setting, that the sun is rising, that we are all media. I don't care what it shows us. What's going on out there is signs that Mother Earth is reaching out. Mother Earth is reaching out for help, saying that we cannot keep forward with this culture of take and take. This extraction culture that we have from Mother Earth, I think, is the biggest part of where we're going to find that balance as human beings. That a fair day's labor used to mean a fair day's pay, and now most of us front that labor for the man for a couple of weeks. And once we start asking those healthy questions of where we're at in society, we'll come to a healthier point in balance. But in the meantime, there's love. I had goosebumps when I first walked in the room, and right now I can tell you all that I feel embraced. Whatever family you guys have going on here, I hope that there's folks out here in the valley that learn about the wonderful things that are going on here, because if they need you, they ought to know about what you guys got going on here. Because when I was a little girl, I went to a Pentecostal church with my little brothers. We were recruited to go to this church. And I loved the singing, I loved the songs. I'd never been to a church, and it was a new experience for me. And after church, the pastor came over to my little brother and he told them, if you kids want to come back, your brother has to cut his hair. And so we never went back to church. Church was kind of a scary place for me. But I was raised by an amazing set of grandparents on both sides that let me know that the Creator is yours. The Creator belongs to everybody. And so I wanted to say thank you for welcoming me back to a very loving, embracing environment with the songs, with your love. And I really honestly do hope that there's people here in this community that are embraced with you guys in the future. If they don't find you guys now, maybe some little glimmer of hope around Thanksgiving time or something will inspire them to find the wonderful blue door on the corner of 2nd and Van Buren. Because you guys have an amazing family here, and I feel honestly like I'm a part of it. And I don't go to church all the time for reasons that were outside of my control, but now I also know that I've learned something today. I want my children to have wonderful experiences. I would take them to church any day, especially if it was a place like this. Thank you. Hello.
Well, I thought you were going to tell the story of being a megalode warrior. And instead you broke my heart open. Oh, goodness. I don't want to leave you guys in suspense, though, so let me just tell you that. Can I tell the story? During the megalode protests, she brought that precious little girl. She brought Ruby out onto the front lines into the middle of the road because she figured nobody's going to hurt or run over a beautiful baby girl. So she just showed us her mama's heart. And those of us who are mamas, we know how fierce that mama heart is, and what it takes to put your own child thank you. I'm glad they were human on the other side. Yeah. So we have one more